You know what's funny? Most people treat breakups like amputations. Clean, decisive, final. Like once someone's out of your life, they're gone forever. I never bought into that. Especially not when it came to Liam. We didn't end because we stopped loving each other. We ended because life got in the way. He got that dream job offer in New York and I had just been promoted in Austin. Neither of us wanted the other to give up what we'd worked so hard for. So we broke up, not with anger, not with betrayal, but with a promise. Let's see where life takes us. For a while, I believed that was just a pause, not a period. We were together for 3 years. 3 years of quiet mornings, late-night drives, playlists we made together, and those long Sunday brunches that turned into Target runs and shared naps. You don't just erase that. You don't move on from a person who knows the exact way you like your coffee, who memorizes your weird family drama, who folds your hoodie sleeves because he knows you hate how long they are. At least I didn't. After he left, we stayed in touch. Not obsessively, but enough. He'd text me when something reminded him of an inside joke. I'd send him memes I knew only he would get. Every year on my birthday, he'd send a photo of that terrible balloon hat he made me wear on my 25th. I still have that photo saved in a folder called Us Unfinished. He never blocked me. Never stopped watching my Instagram stories. He was always one of the first to view them, even the dumb ones. He remembered things, commented on my new haircut, laughed at my captions, asked about my dog. If that's not staying connected, I don't know what is. People love saying if he wanted to, he would. But Liam did. In his own way. Quiet, steady, consistent. He just never said what I wanted him to say. Never wrote the sentence that would let me leap again. But he didn't say goodbye either. And in silence, there's space for hope. I dated other guys. Went on coffee dates, downloaded the apps, even had a short thing with a guy named Carter who did CrossFit and cried during Pixar movies. But it never felt real. Not like it did with Liam. I'd laugh, but the laugh felt borrowed. I'd kiss, but I'd be thinking about how Liam used to trace circles on my shoulder with his thumb when he held me. So I stopped forcing it. I told myself the universe had a plan. Maybe he'd move back. Maybe I'd get transferred. Maybe we'd meet again at a friend's wedding or on a random flight and just know. Until then, I kept my role, the person who remembered, who didn't forget what we had, who knew that love doesn't vanish just because the zip code changes. I curated my presence in his life carefully, never too much, never too little. A story here, a like there. Sometimes I'd reply to his posts with an inside joke. Sometimes I'd tag him in old memories. Remember this? With a laughing emoji. He always responded. Always. When he posted a photo of a skyline, I'd ask if he still hated Midtown traffic. When he shared a picture of a burger, I'd tease him. Still drowning everything in mustard, huh? And he'd write back something like, "You know me too well." Yes, I did. That's what kept me steady. What made me believe that no matter who he dated or where he lived, I was still the one he truly connected with. That every girl he met was just a placeholder. A delay tactic. Because I wasn't ready to let go. And I didn't think he was either. We weren't broken, we were just paused. That's what I told myself every time I saw his name light up my screen. That's what I whispered whenever someone asked why I was still single. That's what I believed, right up until the moment I saw her. And everything shifted. The first time I saw her, I wasn't even looking for her. It was a Sunday afternoon and I was half asleep on the couch, scrolling through Instagram like a zombie. Liam had posted something, a photo of a pizza slice on a city bench, captioned, "Perfect Sunday." I smiled. That bench used to be our spot. The one we sat on during our second trip to the city, sharing greasy takeout and arguing over whether pineapple belonged on pizza. It doesn't, by the way. Liam always disagreed. I tapped on his story out of habit. And there she was. A girl I'd never seen before, taking a selfie in front of the same pizza place, tagging the same location. A minute later, she appeared in Liam's story too, laughing mid-bite, her hand resting on his shoulder, like it belonged there. It was subtle, but something in me went cold. I zoomed in like an idiot, analyzing every inch of her smile, the way she leaned into him. It wasn't just a friend. I knew that instinctively, maybe from the way he looked at her, relaxed, unbothered, like he wasn't aware a camera was watching. I clicked her username, Zara May. Of course her account was public. The kind of girl who lives to be seen. Her feed was a carefully curated exhibit. Golden hour selfies, latte art, beach vacations, filtered quotes about energy and alignment. And Liam, my Liam, started popping up in more and more of her squares. Their first photo together was from 2 months ago, a blurry group shot at a rooftop bar. Nothing incriminating. But then came one from a hike, him holding her hand as she stepped over a log, and another from a Sunday morning at his apartment, sunlight pouring through the window as she held a mug and smiled like she'd just woken up in his t-shirt. She had. That t-shirt used to be mine. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but I didn't. Instead, I scrolled deeper, through birthday brunches, weekend road trips, cuddled photos under string lights. She wasn't a fling, she was in his life. And suddenly I couldn't breathe. I told myself it didn't mean anything. People post pictures. People perform for social media. Maybe she was a rebound. Maybe she was pressuring him to go public before he was ready. Liam never liked posting about relationships. He'd always say, "Why do we need strangers to validate what's real?" I used to respect that. I used to believe that privacy was intimacy. But now he was posting her. And I was watching, invisible. Still, I played it cool. I liked their photos, left harmless comments, little hearts, emojis. I even replied to one of his stories. "Wow, hiking now? What happened to the only nature I like is in documentaries?" He replied with a laughing emoji. Somehow she convinced me. Who even am I? Somehow, as if he was already changing for her. I kept telling myself she didn't know him like I did. She hadn't seen him cry during Marley and Me. She hadn't met his grandma or helped him through his job loss or memorized how he liked his eggs on Sundays. I had. I was his history. She was just novelty. But that didn't stop the ache. The sharp, bitter one that started to follow me everywhere. I'd see a couple on the street and my chest would clench. I'd hear a song we once danced to and feel like someone had punched me in the stomach. It wasn't just that he was with someone new. It was that he was giving her the parts of himself he used to withhold. He took her hiking. He let her decorate his apartment. He reposted her captions. He laughed in every photo like nothing about him had ever broken. And I hated that. I hated how quickly she'd stepped into a space I had kept reserved for years. It felt like I had been holding a seat in his life with a jacket draped over it, and she'd walked in, smiled politely, and sat down like it had never been mine. I told myself not to spiral, to be the bigger person. I started sharing more of my own life online, photos from brunch, selfies with perfect lighting, witty captions about being booked and busy. I even went on a few dates just to have something to post. But none of it felt real. Because no matter how many comments I got or how many guys bought me drinks, I was still refreshing her page at midnight. Still zooming in on Liam's smile in her photos. Still whispering to myself, she doesn't know him the way I do. But what if she didn't need to? What if knowing him now meant more than knowing who he used to be? That question lingered, haunting me, as I watched them build something new, while I stood on the outside, holding the ghost of something old. They say closure is something you give yourself. I didn't believe that. Not really. I believed closure came from eye contact, from hearing someone say, "I still think about you." From a lingering silence between two people who once loved each other, and in that silence, something soft and unspoken says, "There's still something here." So when I found out I'd be in New York for a work conference, I knew what I had to do. Was it crazy? Maybe. Was it manipulative? I told myself no. I messaged Liam 3 days before my flight. "Hey, I'll be in the city next week for a quick work thing. Want to grab coffee if you're around?" He replied 10 minutes later. "Yeah, that'd be nice. Just let me know when." My heart stuttered. Not just because he said yes, but because he didn't ask why. Didn't ask if it would be weird. Didn't mention Zara. I chose a small cafe near Union Square, one we used to go to during his internship summers. The kind with chipped mugs and mismatched chairs and too many succulents. It hadn't changed. Neither had the way I positioned myself by the window, watching every face pass, waiting for the one I still remembered in my bones. When he walked in, the air shifted. He looked good, casual, dark sweater, jeans, that effortless mess of curls he always claimed to hate. He smiled when he saw me, that same lopsided grin that used to undo me. "Emily," he said, opening his arms. We hugged. It was both too long and not long enough. We sat, ordered, and talked. At first about safe things, work, mutual friends, weather complaints. Then deeper, books, dreams, what had surprised us most about turning 30. I told him I missed real bookstores. He told me he'd started writing poetry again. Poetry, I wanted to scream. You never wrote poetry with me. But I just smiled. He asked about my family. I asked about his new apartment. He talked about cooking with Zara. Learning to make Thai curry from scratch. I almost laughed out loud. Liam, who once claimed boiling pasta was too involved. She's patient, he said. Doesn't make fun of me when I mess up. I nodded, even as something inside me tightened. You seem happy, I said softly. He looked up, held my gaze. I am. And there it was. No hesitation, no flicker of doubt, no wistful pause where the old version of him used to hide. But still, I wasn't ready to let go. We lingered, talked for over an hour, laughed, reconnected. It was easy, familiar. There were moments, fleeting but real, where I caught him looking at me the way he used to. That spark of recognition, that shared code no one else could read. So I pushed, just a little. You ever wonder, I said, stirring my coffee too fast, if things might have been different, if timing hadn't gotten in the way? He exhaled, leaned back, looked away. Yeah, he said, sometimes. That was all the permission I needed. Later that night, I texted him. Today felt really good. I didn't realize how much I missed talking to you like that. He replied a few hours later. Same here. It was really nice seeing you. My hands trembled holding the phone. It wasn't a confession, but it wasn't rejection either. It was something. So the next day, I extended my trip, told work my return flight was delayed, asked Liam if he wanted to grab drinks before I headed back. He said yes. This time it was a rooftop bar in Brooklyn. Twinkling lights, low music, the kind of setting you pretend isn't romantic so no one accuses you of hoping. We sat close enough to brush knees. He let it happen. We talked about that trip to Portland we never took, about our old Spotify playlist. He still remembered the lyrics to the dumb song I made him learn so we could sing it in the car like a duet. I started to believe maybe this was real. Maybe we were finding our way back. Then, somewhere between the second drink and the third story about his coworkers, he glanced at his watch and said, I should probably head out. Zara's waiting. Just like that. Like flipping off a light. I nodded. Of course. But inside I wanted to scream. She's always waiting, isn't she? We hugged again, shorter this time, quieter. As I watched him disappear into the subway stairs, I kept thinking, if he really missed me, why was he rushing home to her? The next morning I suggested breakfast. He hesitated, then agreed. Said he knew a diner near his place, one with strong coffee and pancakes the size of your head. Perfect, I thought. One last meal. One last memory. I wore a blue sweater he once said brought out my eyes. He wore indifference. We talked, laughed a little, and then, between bites of syrup-soaked pancakes, I said it. I know I probably shouldn't say this, but being with you again, even just like this, it reminded me that what we had wasn't just good, it was rare. He froze, fork halfway to his mouth. I pressed on. I'm not saying we jump into anything, but maybe the timing is finally right. Maybe the universe brought us back now for a reason. He was quiet for a long time. Then he set down his fork and said gently, Emily, I love that we still care about each other. I'll always care about you. But I'm with Zara, and I'm happy. What we had was beautiful, but it's not where I am anymore. The words sliced clean, but it was what he said next that broke me. I'm planning to propose next month. I smiled. I nodded. I wished him luck. Then I excused myself to the restroom, locked the door, and sobbed until my shoulders shook. I had come to New York chasing something I thought was waiting for me. Instead, I found the door had been closed long ago. And I was still holding the key, wondering why it wouldn't open. The plane ride home felt like limbo. I sat by the window, staring out at a sky that looked just as confused as I felt. Gray, indifferent, endlessly suspended. Everything outside seemed to move, and yet I felt absolutely still. Hollow. Like someone had scooped out the parts of me that used to dream. I didn't cry. Not on the plane. Not when the Uber dropped me off at my apartment. Not even when I unlocked my door and walked into the same familiar silence that had once felt peaceful, but now felt like punishment. I just stood there, holding my suitcase handle like it might hold me up. And I thought, so that's it. All this time, I had been holding on to an idea, a shape of a person who no longer existed. I wasn't in love with Liam anymore. I was in love with the version of him I had frozen in time. The Liam who smiled into my camera lens. The one who held my hand under tables and whispered, "We'll figure it out." The man who looked at me like I was the answer. But he wasn't that man now. And I wasn't his answer. Still, old habits die hard. That night, I opened Instagram. I told myself I just wanted to clear my inbox, maybe watch a few videos to numb my mind. But within 5 minutes, I was on Zara's page again. Her latest post? A photo of Liam kneeling in front of her, ring in hand, her hands covering her mouth in shock. The caption, 1,000 times yes. The date, the day after our breakfast. I blinked, stared, blinked again. He had proposed. While I was still somewhere in the sky, wrapping myself in the lie that maybe I still mattered, he had been getting down on one knee. I dropped my phone. Not out of shock, but out of a sudden white-hot rage. How dare he? How dare he sit across from me with that soft voice, those gentle eyes, and talk about caring while he was preparing to erase me for good? How dare he let me open up, be vulnerable, only to return home and hand my place in his life to someone else? I wanted to scream, but my apartment was too quiet. My voice would only echo back at me. Instead, I did what I always did. I went into control mode. I deleted our old photos, removed my saved folder called Us, unfollowed him, blocked Zara, hid mutual friends' posts. I scrubbed him from my phone like an infection I didn't want to admit I'd let fester for too long. And yet, the ache didn't leave. Because blocking a person doesn't block the memories. They still showed up, everywhere. In the flavor of Thai curry I'd never liked, but ate anyway. In the stupid comedy show we once binged and quoted for months. In the way my hand automatically reached for my phone at 10 p.m., our old check-in hour. I started seeing couples on the street and wondering how many of them were secretly mourning someone else. How many women were smiling while still thinking about the guy who said, "I'm happy now," like it was supposed to make them feel better. My friends tried to be supportive. Taylor offered wine and long rants about how Zara probably spells her name with a heart over the I. Mia sent me a candle called Emotional Support Flame. We laughed, but the laughter never reached my chest. What hurt the most wasn't that Liam had moved on. It was that he had replaced me so completely and so easily. He gave her everything he had withheld from me. The trips, the public declarations, the proposal. And I was left wondering if I'd been the warm-up act, the rehearsal, the test run that helped him love her better. One night, about a week later, I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine, looking up at a sky that refused to rain. I thought about writing him. Just one last message. Not to win him back. Not even to say goodbye. Just to say, "You could have told me you were that far gone. You could have warned me not to hope." But I didn't send it. Because the truth was, he didn't owe me that. I had chosen to stay tethered to a version of us that only existed in my head. I'd rewritten memories into maybes. I'd held a torch for a man who had long since stopped building the fire. He wasn't the villain. He was just done. And I was the one still sitting in the theater after the credits rolled, waiting for a post-credits scene that was never coming. It's been 6 months since New York. I've stopped checking their profiles. Most days. I won't pretend I've become some unshakable woman who meditates through heartbreak and rises with the dawn in perfect peace. I'm not her. Not yet. But I am someone who stopped making excuses for pain that kept knocking on my door wearing Liam's face. For weeks after that final breakfast, I wandered around my own life like a guest. I'd walk into my kitchen and wonder why the air felt different. I'd lie on my couch and remember the night Liam and I built a pillow fort there during a thunderstorm, drinking wine from mugs because all the glasses were dirty. I had been haunted, not by his absence, but by the way I had clung to an outdated blueprint, convinced that if I stayed still long enough, he'd return to the life I had saved for him. But he didn't. And he won't. And slowly, I've made peace with that. I go on walks now, alone, no headphones. Just me, the sound of my breath, and the city around me that never stopped moving, even when I did. I deleted our playlist. I donated the hoodie he left behind. I changed my lock screen from a photo of a flower he once gave me to a picture I took of the ocean during a solo weekend in Galveston. That trip was the first thing I'd done for myself in a long time. I remember sitting on the sand, letting the wind tangle my hair, watching couples pass by holding hands. For the first time in months, I didn't feel the need to compare myself to them. I didn't wonder if they were happier than I'd ever been. I just let the waves roll in, let them crash, then recede again and again. Like memories. Like grief. Like love. Taylor says I've been weirdly quiet lately. Mia keeps asking when I'll start dating again. I smile. Change the subject. Not because I'm avoiding it, but because, for the first time, I'm not looking for a new person to fill the silence. I'm learning to sit with it. There's something liberating about no longer waiting, about not scanning every notification hoping it's him, about deleting messages draft after draft, realizing I have nothing left to say that would change anything. One night last week, Liam's name popped up in my inbox. It was short. Simple. Hey, just saw something that reminded me of you. Hope you're doing okay. I stared at it for a while. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I even typed something, twice, and erased it both times. Then I turned off my phone, not out of spite, not out of pride, but because I didn't need to answer anymore. He reminded me of me. I'm already doing that every day. I still think of him. Yes, I still feel something twist when I hear certain songs or smell the cologne I once bought him for Christmas. But those moments don't paralyze me anymore. They pass like weather. Uncomfortable, but survivable. The truth is, I loved him. Deeply. Fully. Maybe even blindly. But love isn't a reason to stay stuck. It's not a ticket to someone's future if they've already chosen a different path. Some loves don't end because they burn out. They end because they become too heavy to carry alone. And maybe that's what Liam became. Not my villain. Not my savior. Just someone I loved. And let go. I still pass by couples sometimes and wonder about their stories. But now I also wonder about mine. The one I'm still writing. Without him, I don't wait anymore. But sometimes, just sometimes, I wonder if he ever looks back. Not because he should have stayed, but because he once did.